We're back
You want to
online.
put the caption?
Yeah, I think it's there.
Okay, perfect. So we had a slight interruption, but basically we're talking about Juneteenth, what it represents, how it connects with ownership, and examples of when Black people did have ownership. We talked about Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street, and we were just getting into the significance of ownership and owning your own business. And I was saying that was key. I felt like that was key to Black economic freedom, being able to generate your own income, being able to not have to rely on the system and the system that oppresses Black people. In the sense of, just think about it. For years and years and years, Black people were looked at as commodities, as products, as, not human beings, literally as slaves whose sole job was to create and generate wealth for their masters. And they built America and they built wealth for families in this country. Now, when Black people, of course, were freed and they had the ability to their own businesses, especially what we see in Black Wall Street, what we see is that was a sign that no longer needed a system that was previously in place that required them to depend on their masters for food, for clothing, for shelter. They were able to create and generate those on their own using the economics and support of their own community. And why is that powerful? That's powerful because that was a threat to the system that had been put in place. And, it might be like what's the word I want to use? I might be playing devil's advocate here to say that Black people are still in the same still part of the system. Black people are the hugest consumers of products in America. And we're also the hugest drivers of this economy. And we're also, still majority of us are employed. While Black people are continuing to create more and more businesses in the sense of owning their own business, a lot of us still rely on this system of employment that has been set up for us. And if we were national, things would look a lot different. And so that's why I'm saying, when you think about ownership and you think about economic liberation, starting your own business, yes. Because still technically, if you're still employed, you're still depending on the system. You haven't quite got to the point where.
See, we have to put ourselves in a position where other people can invest in us. Mm-hmm. Because if you've not, I read today where the person was making an argument about the fact that even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, just own a business to use that for even tax purposes. So you can at least have something work for you and not just you work for something all the time. That's very key. When it comes to ownership and using Black Wall Street tradition of what we're capable of doing as a Black race, creating businesses is one of the key things. It's economic power, Black people, and that makes that is a demonstration of true freedom. That's not just in America, but on the African continent as well. We've been able to create businesses. That's the second thing that Black Wall Street did very well, that we have to emulate today as we're celebrating or we're observing Juneteenth today when Black people were supposedly free. The next thing that you want to touch on has to do with home. And I use home in the context of not a house. Because think about it, at the time, Black people, if you like, when they said we were free, we were together as a family. And it's a family that creates a home. One element of the household is taken away. We no longer kind of have a home, we now have a house. And that's one of the key things that was taken away from Black people. Through all these massacres that were happening and mass incarcerations and all of that, people no longer have homes because the family unit survives together and they're able to build together. But that is, then we have a very limited what we are able to do. So one of the things that Black Wall Street enjoyed was that all these people were together, the families were together, they were building together to build things, to build businesses. It wasn't just an individual thing. So that was one of the key things that they did that brought power to them. Just so you know. So you can trust the family member that, okay, let's come together be able to build something together. So these are the things that we take away from Black Wall Street and what Black people are capable of doing to create ownership and empowerment and liberation as Black people, until that also was snatched away from us. Now let's bring in what Africa brings to the table when we talk about Juneteenth and Black people being economically free of the world. We'll talk about the significance of Black Wall Street and what it represented. Now, the first thing that I'd like to touch on is the fact that, we always are careful when we talk about Africa and Black people outside of Africa getting involved, because a lot of people look at it like, okay, why should America? Why should I leave Europe? Should I do all of these things? I've worked here, I've done this, I've done that. But we say, look at it from perspective of you're using Africa as another bucket of economic power or creating wealth. Because when you look at the financial services, the financial advisors who advise you that you should have towards your retirement buckets, at least 3 buckets. So you have one, and they call it supplemental buckets. You have one, you have like a 401k where you're saving money for retirement. You have another one where you have maybe like some type of life insurance or something that you're putting money in, that your next generation where you're no longer there could have it. Then maybe you have another bucket that has invested in the stock market. So you have these 3 buckets as an option. We're saying that we have to begin to look at Africa as another bucket for economic empowerment and building wealth. That's all we're saying. So as we mark Juneteenth as a time where we want to celebrate Black people being free and having economic liberation, Africa presents that opportunity to have another bucket where we can actually build something from there that can supplement whatever we are building in America, in Europe, or anywhere in the world. So I want you to have that at the back of your mind when you're dealing with Africa. Now, another thing Africa gives you, don't forget that Black Wall Street has to do with, the home piece. Because in America, especially in America, is that there's always a tendency of system or taking away an element of the family that makes the family have the ability to build together. And we see that in police brutality. We see that in so many different forms, mass incarceration, as it is today. The Black people are present like never before. Black men. So that element is always taken away from them. Africa presents you a place where at least you can give your children that opportunity to grow up with a family unit. So,
at least, that whole concept of a village to raise a child. And that is the way that things are there. Even if you're a single mother and you're thinking about moving to the continent, your children will find their village when they move. They will find people who support them and who are, who will nurture them as they grow to become adults. And I think that's what's key. We're missing that. We're missing that a lot of times here in the States. That familial unit.
That's a hard truth that sometimes we like to run away from. Not everybody too comfortable. Not everybody is too okay with the setup around here. Some people maybe somebody like me, that maybe he may not care about what system, what happens and anything. But some of us do care. And Africa gives us that extra buckets that we can begin to look at as an alternative when it comes to having a home where all the elements of the home are actually present to help you build. That is very key. Now, the second piece that Africa comes in to supplement when it comes to ownership and economic liberation has to do with land. The land piece is very crucial. Like I said, every Black person, every human in this world must own some type of land throughout your lifetime. The reality is that the way the oppression has gone on from the past up until present, it is very difficult for a Black person to really have ownership when it comes to land, property. It is very crucial. I mean, you can deny it, maybe you do, but majority of Black people don't. And I'm saying that Africa gives you the opportunity to own land as a Black person. And owning land gives you some type of empowerment as a person for your next generations to come. So you want to begin to look at Africa. So that's a piece Africa comes in to help situation. That, okay, we're free. Now we need to have ownership. America has made it so choked that it's hard for us to have ownership. So now Africa gives us the opportunity to begin to own something when it comes to land. Land is very key in the whole economic liberation piece or empowerment piece. If we can't get land in America, I'm telling you there are a lot of lands in Africa that you can have access to. You just have to put yourself together, make the move, travel, and then see what's possible for you. Very key. So that's how Africa comes in. That's the role Africa plays when it comes to the whole Juneteenth and liberation process. Africa comes in as a supplemental plan for you to be able to have some type of ownership on the continent as a Black person.
And it's very attainable. I mean, when we as Black people in America are looking to purchase land could be anywhere between, $30,000, $100,000, sometimes even more, depending on which area you're trying to buy. And that is intimidating. That is, a block for a lot of us. So, when you go to a lot of African countries, you can find land, good sizable land, for as little as $300, something that you could build a house on. And as you get closer and closer to more populated, it will become more expensive, but it's very attainable. It's the pricing is affordable. And so, a lot of times we're just so laser focused on how we can do all of that here. But we're saying, here is another bridge that you can take. Here is another option that you can take. If you're open, another pathway that you can take. If you're open, if you want to, something that interests you, come to it. We're building a bridge you can use to connect to the continent.
And that Black Wall Street did that represented Black economic liberation, ownership and control, and creating wealth, had to do with businesses. Now, in America today, a lot of people, for some reasons, are not able to, I'm telling you, start businesses because for some reasons, maybe what it takes to the motivation, whatever it is here in America and maybe in Europe, they're not able to do that because the system is such a way that it's like they have to survive. So the day they have a break to want to start a business, it becomes so difficult. What we're presenting that what Africa comes in to make that a reality is that Africa has a lot of opportunities that you can actually collaborate with other people on the continent, other people from the diaspora as well, to be able to build best continent. So when you're thinking about Juneteenth and Black people being free and being able to create economic liberation, we're saying that Africa gives you the opportunity, just like Black Wall Street, to build because the opportunities are there. We keep talking about all the opportunities. And today, before we end, I'm actually throwing one opportunity, which I said at least every Friday on our live, I'm throwing one opportunity people can actually look at if you're interested when it comes to Africa and Ghana specifically. So we're saying that emulating Black Wall Street and what Black people are capable of building, we're saying one of the things they did was build businesses. And Africa gives you the opportunity to build that. And you don't have to do that alone. You can partner with other people. In fact, other Africans to build that. You can have other people to take care of the business until it grows and becomes big. You can also decide with that if you want to do that and then build that thing. So if America is not helping you do that, I'm saying Africa gives you that extra bucket that makes you be able to do that. So we need to begin to consider that as a supplemental option when it comes to wealth creation and economic liberation as Black people all over the world. So we'll talk about the land. Africa comes in to solve that problem. That if you cannot get land in America, Africa helps you to be able to get land, to be able to build. And it's a America. Opportunity space. Africa presents enormous opportunities that you can actually come board. As you remember Juneteenth, that I want to build economic power, economic liberation. Africa gives you that avenue.
I think it was Akon always throw this in from time to time, but I think it was about how Africa is a place that Black people can go and build Fortune 500 companies in 5 years. And there is, of course, no way that we would be able to do something like that in America and with the constructs of America and how it is set up. And so what we're saying is if you're already thinking in the mind of, I want to start my own business, if you already have your own business, if you're already in an entrepreneurial mindset, then you should be thinking about how you can expand your business into Africa. And even if you aren't entrepreneurial, you should still be looking to see, how can I connect to the continent? How can I go land? How can I, begin to plant roots over there? How can I learn about, my culture, my history? And if you didn't know anyone, today, now you know someone who can connect you to the continent.
So I think that about the last thing that before I give you the opportunity for today, for this week, one of the final things that I like to touch on, which I think is at the height of all of this, remembering Juneteenth. I tend to forget about that. One of the key things that Africa comes in that you have to begin to look at when it comes to Africa as Black people outside of Africa, and why we need to go back to think of getting land, to think of building businesses, to think of join hands with other people to build the things that we want to actually build. One of the key things that you want to look at is to make sure, or why you should do that, is to make sure that whatever happened on the African continent that in Black people having to go through slavery and whatever happened over there, make sure that that never happens to another race ever again. Because when you go to Africa and you have ownership on things together with the people that are there, what is that borrowing the continent to the extent that made some people arrive in the Americas and all of that, we're ensuring that that doesn't happen to another race ever again. That's what you do when you decide to look at Africa as another source, as another place of control, of economic power for Black people. You come, let's build a continent so that whatever transpired that made this result here, once we own everything, once we're part of the moves that are happening on the continent, no third party can come in and influence, because we have the knowledge, we've bought the land, we've built the businesses, so now nobody can come in and repeat what happened, so now another generation have to go through what we went through. About that, you go beyond yourself. You begin to look at the next generation. How can I make sure this doesn't happen again? How can I make sure nobody goes to Africa who doesn't look like me, that will go and take ownership, that will go and build something over there, that will give them control to put another people that looks like me through another years and years of torture that we don't want to go through. So we want to go and be the people to build the continent, to have ownership rather than other. That is very key. And that is why you need to look at Africa when you're talking about Juneteenth and Black people being free. And freedom in terms of like liberation, where we have ownership and control, where we have to build wealth, where we have our homes taxed, where all the elements that makes up a home are all intact. Africa is the place to look at when you're talking about things. Don't forget that. To add something before I touch on the business opportunity.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
So the opportunity. If you have any question, you can actually throw it in and we'll address it. But every week we say we'll give an opportunity that people can look at. You can think about it, you can brainstorm, but always remember you always have to get help when it comes to taking the final action or taking the step. Now there's a business in Ghana, or an opportunity in Ghana, which I think is very crucial. So far, my entire life living in Ghana, I've realized people are not solving. People are not solving that problem. So that's something you want to begin to consider. Maybe if you can do it alone, you can find partners. You can find partners, join forces, and so take your pens and pencils and your notebooks and let's get it. Now it's a very simple business. If you go to Ghana and you look at all the remarkable things, and this will not just be for Ghana, you can find it across the continent. If you go to Ghana, you look at all the tourist attraction sites. They're quite far from where people actually live in terms of the towns and all of that. It's quite a distance. So people have to drive all the way there, sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours to be able to get to these tourist attraction sites. But unfortunately, on your way there, people can feel like getting water and all of that because there's a lot of water along the way. But you never find a place that people can actually stop and go get these things that they want. And this has been a problem that I've seen consistently as early as January, the problem that was in Ghana as I speak to you now. Now, I find that as a huge business opportunity for people to begin to look at that. How can I place rest stops at vital places? Because think about a tourist attraction like the Safe Castles. Every single day, people in there. So if you look at a beautiful water, every single day people are traveling to these sites. But it's hard to find good rest stops along the way. if you can think about putting yourself together, getting some partners, and building rest stops at even 3 of these attractions on your way there, that is a money maker for you. You solve a problem on the continent, but at the same time, you create wealth for yourself and your next generation. That's the business opportunity for this week that I want to share to anybody who wants to begin to look at that, have a plan to set up at least a few of them at certain vantage places on the continent. That could be a huge blessing for you. Let's see for a minute. Okay, we went out on our Facebook, so I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, it was hard.
Oh, this was also
ended for some reason.
Okay, maybe that was the first one. So let's see. Do we have any question on Instagram?
Yeah, you'd have to go back up and see if we have any questions.
Okay, that one said the video was not too good. The live keep breaking. What do we have here?
I'm laughing.
This one said what? I'm currently running a business. It's called what? It's called VAT culture. Okay. I'm not sure what that.
We'll have to look at that.
VAT culture. So any questions here?
I'll have to check on YouTube after this.
Okay, so a quick recap. We're saying black oppression from slavery. Now, in something transpired in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where black people had a distraction of what they've built, that gave them economic power, liberation, and control, ownership, called the Tulsa massacre that destroyed all their businesses that they had built. Now, if we're celebrating Juneteenth, where black people became free in America, what we're suggesting is that we have to go back to look at Black Wall Street to teach us what it meant to actually be free as black people, where we had ownership of all the things that we could think about. We mentioned a number of them. We talk about all the homes and residents of black people, hotels, movie theaters, restaurants, clothing stores, grocery shops being owned by black people. And we're saying all kinds of things. We're saying that if we're celebrating or remembering Juneteenth, where black people became free, we have to relook at these things, how we can have ownership, how we can have economic power and liberation. And we're saying Africa comes in to play a certain role in that. Because when you look at Black Wall Street, some of the things that made them have ownership, which was of their lands and their homes, building all those businesses for themselves that help them to be able to create wealth, and having the family systems being intact. Because if a family can come together, they can build something. We're saying that was black people. Now Africa comes in as a supplemental, place that you can use to supplement whatever you're building in America. When it comes to the lands, ownership of lands, Africa gives you the opportunity to own lands. We're saying another thing they did was build businesses. When you talk about Africa coming in, Africa gives you the opportunity to be able to build any type of business you want. Opportunities are there. So that's the next. The other thing we mentioned was about home, building a home. Africa gives you a place to be able to as well. So we're saying if you're considering, as a period where black people were free, you need to actually look at Africa and the role Africa in that. That's it. And then we talked about opportunity for the day, building rest stops to tourist attraction sites in Ghana.
Yeah, as our business opportunity.
It's a business opportunity. You can follow Certified Africa on Facebook. Certified Africa. Follow. You can also subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we bring you all these important information about Africa and business and living on the continent. We'll bring you that as well. So you can subscribe. You can check out our store as well. If you want to purchase anything Africa, you can check out our Certified Africa shop on our website. You can also see that. I think it's on the screen. You can also look at that and do some type of shopping to support at least the mission or the movements that we're actually building. I think, and we also have some sales.
So then we have a
sales.
So you can use the code certified19 to receive 20% off of the site.
Everything
so
on our site,
go
20%
take advantage
off.
of that.
So you can use certified 19 to be able to do some shopping. And we have a lot of trips coming up. You can check our website up as well. But next week, Friday, we're coming back your way, Africa.
If you need to get in touch with us, our email is certifiedafrica@gmail.com. Reach out to us, and we look forward to connecting with you all again soon.
Hey, we're so grateful. If you just joined, you can go check this out on YouTube. We appreciate you. Enjoy your weekend. Be blessed. See, somebody just joined us. Oh, she's late.